So Rabbosai, we are up to Daf Ayin Dalid, but I would like to just backtrack for a little bit, for a few minutes, to Daf Ayin Gimel, the Shita Rabbi Yehuda. Now, if you take a look on Daf Ayin Gimel Amid Beis, you'll see Rabbi Yehuda Omer Af Omer Seinichu Li Shelo Yargenu. So let's see if we can just find that. You see where it says Tosas Dibra Maskal Mamona on Ayin Gimel Amid Beis? You have that Tosas Mamona? Oh, so if you drop down about 4 or 5 lines, it says Rabbi Yehuda Omer Af Homeres Hanichu Li Shelo Yargenu. And Rabbi Yehuda says, and the Chacham disagree with him, that if she, who is the victim, decides to exempt him, so to speak, from his din hariga as a rodev, then it waives the entire mechanism and the halacha of a rodev. And the Chacham disagree. So the Gemara quotes Rava to explain this machlokas. B'maiko miflagi. Omar Rava, b'makpedes al pigma umenichaso shelo yargena. So what does this mean, makpedes al pigma? Rashi says, but again, you see, Rashi's a little tricky here. He doesn't tell you what makpedes al pigma means, but we can figure it out from what Rashi says would be the opposite. And Rashi says, B'she'ena makpedes, lo ka'amrei rabbanon lemiktale mishum avera lo chomer mi'avodas kochavim v'shabbos. Rava wants to set the background for the machlokas between the Chacham and Rabbi Yehuda. And Rashi points out that by process of elimination, it has to be makpedes al pigma, because there could be no machlokas about the case of ena makpedes al pigma. And why is that? Says Rashi, that if it would be ena makpedes al pigma, even the Rabbanon would agree that we would have to suspend the din of rodev, and we could not put the rodev to death because it's ena makpedes al pigma. And Rashi gives a little bit of an explanation as to why this is so. Why is it that in ena makpedes al pigma, even the Rabbanan would agree that we suspend the din of rodev? And the answer is, it becomes avera and not rodev. Right? She's, let's say, a Nara Murasa. She's an Eishes Ish. So we have an avera of Gilui Arayos. But that itself could only generate the law of hariga and rodev if she's makpedes al pigma. The element that generates the law of rodev is pagam. And if she's not makpedes on pagam, then forget about rodef. It becomes an avera, a serious avera, but we don't kill a person in order to prevent him and save him from the clutches of an avera. Like, for example, Rashi says, avodas kochavim and Shabbos. So what exactly now is the machlokus between Rav Yehuda and Chachamim? It can't be a case of Eina Makpeda, says Rashi, because then even the Rabbanu would agree that we suspend the din of Rodef. She's not Makpedes. So it must be a case of Makpedes. All right. So if it's Makpedes, why do the Rabbanan say that there's no din of Rodef? So Rava says the following. Makpedes al pigma. She doesn't want to submit herself to this Mises Nus. It's against her will. She's being forced into this situation. So what does Rabbi Yehuda mean when she says Hanichulo? It's a contradiction in terms. You're telling me that she's Makpedes, and then you're telling me that she says Menichalo, leave him alone. And the answer is Shalo Yargena. So let's see if we can fit in, the pieces of this strange puzzle by looking at the Rabbanan sheet, and then we'll come back to Rabbi Yehuda's sheet. Rabbanan Savri, this is all Rava, Apagima Chopid Rachmona, Varei Makpedes al Pigma. The Torah imposed the status of a rodef in this particular case because of pigma. So the Torah is going to allow you to kill the rodef and save the nirdaf, because this is an Avera Sheish Lo Pagam. And she's makpid on a Pagam. Makpedes al Pigma. So now, we have the opposite problem. Now, we don't understand Rabbi Yehuda. The Torah gave this rodef, the status of rodef, because the Torah is careful about pagam. And we're talking about a case where she's makpedes al pigma. So why does Rabbi Yehuda suspend the law of rodef? Do you gentlemen have any explanation for this? I'm in the dark here. I'm hoping that you'll enlighten me. Steve, can you help me out here? Or John? Well, what's going on over here? We're talking about a case of makpedes al pigma. The Torah gave the rodef a status of a rodef, and you can kill him. in order to prevent an avera sheish ba pagam, and she's makpedes al pigma. I just need a little bit of empathy here. Rabbi Yehuda holds Haidika Omer Achmona Katle. Rabbi Yehuda has a whole new understanding of the law of Rodef in this case. It's not to prevent Hapagam. Mishum de Moser Nafshel Ktola. She's going to give up her life. Now, this sheds a whole new light on the situation here, on this scenario. He is raping her at gunpoint, at knife point. That's what I think I need your help here, Abosai, but that's the way I read this Gemara. She's going to resist, and she might die. So it's not a new category of Rodef because of Hapagam, Avera Sheish Pagam. It's a Rodef because he is threatening to kill her. It comes back to the old din of Rodef, the basic fundamental case of Rodef, Acher Chaver Lahargo. What do you mean Acher Chaver Lahargo? He's not killing her, he's raping her. But the answer is, if she resists, he's going to murder her. Otherwise, I don't know how to read this Gemara. The Gemara says, Mishum de Masra Nafshel Ktola. But for her, in this particular case, she's saying, let him do what he's going to do. Otherwise, I'll be a dead meat. And lo masr nafshel k'tola. We don't have any threat to her life if she's announcing that let him do what he. Yes, she's not happy. You know what I'm saying? She's makpin on a pagam. She's not willingly submitting herself to this Maisa, but on the other hand, the alternative is a lot worse. And halachically, she's within her bounds in a rape situation. She's an anusa. She doesn't have to give up her life. So again, let's just summarize. We have a fundamental machlokus here between Rabbi Yehuda and Chacham. The Chacham say that he is a rodef because of an aver sheish bo pagam, and she's makpedes on pagam, and therefore he should be put away. We'll kill him as a rodef. And Rabbi Yehuda says no, we don't kill a rodef because of an aver sheish bo pagam. We kill a rodef because the life of the victim is in danger. But in this case, says Rabbi Yehuda, where she says, let him do what he's doing, I don't want to fight with him because it's going to mean my life. In such a case, we're not choshesh for her life, and therefore he's not a rodef. Now let's try to analyze her situation here. She made a decision that she would submit herself to the action and not fight him off in order to save her life. Is that correct? Again, she could fight him off. She'll probably die. And she makes the decision she'd rather, in a sense, participate in this act of Gili Arayos rather than die. In that sense, she does make a decision. She does have another choice. She could resist, fight him off, and then Mesiras Nefesh. So Rabbi Yehuda says she's really passive. She makes a decision in her mind, hanichaso, to let this arayas go through, so to speak, but she's a total victim. And therefore, the Avera is mitigated. She's a victim. She's totally passive. She's only active in the decision that she made of what not to do, meaning not to fight him off. And in such a case, we don't kill the Rodef because this is a case of onus. And the Rabbanan is saying, well, you know what? She made a decision to submit herself to the action. She chose that over submitting her life, over sacrificing her life. And therefore, this Avera is being done now. There's an Avera being done. She has made a decision to submit herself to this Avera, Hanichaso. And in that case, he's a Rodef. So what I want to do with you is read a Rambam. This Rambam is in Hilchos Yesodei Torah. You know, the Rambam has an entire chapter, Perkei Hilchos Yesodei Torah, dedicated to the laws of Kiddush Hashem. When does a person required, according to Allah, to give up his life? Kol mi shenemar bo yeharig val yavar. If the Torah requires of you to give up your life, v'lo nera, he decides his life is worth it. He doesn't want to give up his life. Hareza mechalas Hashem. So in these cases where yeharg val yavo, which means the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem kicks in, he decides my life is more important, and he violates the Avera in order to save his life. The Rambam says that's called Chil Hashem. And in the presence of 10 people, that's called a public desecration of the name of God. That's called Chil Hashem barab. The afal pichen. Now the question is, if the person, according to halacha,
where is the Rambam?
Perek Hey Halacha Daled Milchus Yisodi HaTorah. So again, the law requires of him to give up his life. That's called Kiddush Hashem Yeharg Val Yavar. He decides he's going to violate the Avera to save his skin. Let's say, for example, he worships the idol. So the Rambam says that he's a Mechalas Hashem, and in front of 10 people, Mechalas Hashem Barabim. But Afal Piche, now the question is, does he get punished? He wasn't allowed, there was no permission, according to Allah, of him to worship this idol. So he's guilty of a capital crime. Says the Rambam, Afal Pichen Kevan Mipnei Sha'avar Bi Ones Ein Malkin also. The Ein Tzarech Lo Mashem Memisin also Bebezdin. Ve'afilu Harag Ba'ones. Even if in order to save his life he killed someone, we're not going to put him to death. Shein Malkin Memisin Eli over Bertsono. Only if he had will and he decided through his free will that he's motivated to violate this Avera. Ubasra, and he had a warning. Shenemar. I mean, the whole issue of Marranos, of, the Spanish Inquisition, this is like typical. Instead of baptizing, they would have been killed. And that's Avodah Zarah. And they decided we're going to survive and we're not going to be Mekadesh Shem Shamayim. I mean, there was others who, as you know, were killed. Many others. The Rambam says we can't punish such a criminal. Shenemar benosei molech mizar lemolech v'nasati ani esponai b'ishahu mipiyashmu alamdu hahu v'lo onus v'lo shogeg v'lo muter. So a man brought his son Lemolech, the worst of crimes, the most hideous violations. And the Torah says he will be punished. However, there's an extra word in the pasuk. The word is hahu. That's a miyut. Could you imagine? They forced him at gunpoint to bring his son Lamol. And to save his skin, he brought his son Lamol. Or, alternatively, he was a shogeg. He thought that the Torah allowed this. Or he was a mutar. He didn't realize what was happening. This crime of Molech is the worst, hideous crime. And yet, over so be honest. We exonerate him from punishment because he did it under duress. How much more so in other mitzvahs that are less severe than Avodah Zarah. Ram now invokes the Pasuk Anar Lo Sased Dover in a case of Gili Arayis to exonerate her from punishment, even in a case where she would have to give up her life. Now we look at the Kesef Mishnah, who quotes the Ramach. The Ramach is Rav Moshe HaKohen, one of the Rishonim. And the Ramach disagrees with the Rambam. There's no heter ones, no leniency for ones, for being coerced in the case of Gimel Averos, and the three Averos Chamuris, the cardinal sins. They're above the din of ones. And therefore, if he violated any of these three surim because of his fear of being killed, that's not considered an onus. So the Rambam holds that if a person decides to opt for Gili Arayis in order to save their lives, then that's called onus. The Ramach on the other hand says that's not onus. He should have decided, I'm not going to submit myself and be willing to give up his life. So now let's take this back to Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim. In the case of Makpedes al Pagama, the Amra Hanichasa. According to Rabbi Yehuda, she's Makpedes al Pigma. She doesn't want this Maisa. It's totally against her will. She's a victim of rape. But you know what? She's saying, leave him alone. Let him go through the action. So she would have been required to give up her life and fight him off and refuse at any cost, even at the cost of her life. She decided she wants to save her life. She's not considered an onus. An anusa, to be more precise. And Mamela, the Rabbi Yehuda says that removes from the rodef, if you want to call him that, the status of a rodef. We're going to save a woman by killing the rodef when she's guilty of Gili Arayis? The Rabbanan say no. Like we saw in the Rambam, this is still called an onus. Even though the Torah says, Kiddush Hashem, give up your life, but no, it's still an onus. No punishment whatsoever. Oh, then, if it's a din of onus, then the halacha of rodef, meaning nitan letzila b'nafsha, is activated. Okay. Now, we learned Daf Ayin Dalet. We did it pretty fast, if you remember. But let's learn a little bit more in depth the Shita of Rabbi Yonasan ben Shol on the top of Daf Ayin Dalet. And that requires us to review Abayit. And the Rabbi says that there's something called Yochol Latzil Bi'echad Meivarav. And Abaye invokes the Shita of Rabbi Yonasan ben Shaul, who says you're not allowed to kill the Rodef if you could prevent the action from happening with Echad Meivarav, by injuring, let's say, the Rodef. And how far does Rabbi Yonasan go? By suspending the din of a Rodef, if you kill the Rodef, you're chayav misa as a Rotzeach. And my tamayu, the Rabbi Yonasan ben Shaul d'chsiv v'chiyunatzu anoshim, and this entire drasha, complicated drasha. So, John, if you have the Rambam, but again, now we're going to require the end of the Rambam. You saw the Torah is in the beginning of the Rambam, but the Rambam in Hilchos Rotzeach, Perek Aleph Halacha Yud Gimel, Kol Hayochol Lahatzil Bi'ever Meivarav V'lo Torach B'Kachela Hitzil B'Nafshel Shel Rodef HaHorga Reza Shofek Tom V'Chayev Misa. So the Rambam paskins like Rav Yonasan ben Shaul that if you could have prevented the Maisa from happening without killing the Rodef, and you went ahead and you killed the Rodef, you're Chayev Misa. However, the Rambam adds another important point. Aval ein bezdim misan also. We will not put him to death. I'm wondering whether this Rambam has anything to do with the previous Rambam from Yisodei HaTorah. Because in both cases, the Rambam suspends the Chiyuv Misa. Now, we thought when we learned Rabbi Yonasan ben Shaul in the Gemara, before we saw this Rambam, that Rabbi Yonasan ben Shaul is telling us that there's no shame Rodef. He's not a Rodef. Rodef means that unless we kill him, he's going to do what he's about to do. But here's a case where we don't have to kill him. Echad Meivarav. We can shoot for the legs, whatever it might be. Says Rabbi Yonasan ben Shaul, in such a case of Yochol Atzilo B'Echad Meivarav, he's not a Rodef. He's not a Rodef. No, but if he's not a Rodef, then the one who killed him should be Chayav Misa in Bezdin. What does the Rabbi mean by saying Ein Bezdin in Misa also? He's not a Rodef, Pakum Yinei Rodef, then the one who killed him is going to be a Rotzeach. Is it possible that the Rambam holds that even according to Rabbi Yonasan ben Shaul, he still remains a Rodef? And honestly, there's a certain compelling logic to that, because a Rodef is someone who really wants to kill somebody else, which is exactly our case of a Rodef. So the question that I want to raise with you today is it possible that even though he's a Rodev, and again, we're inclined to say that he is a Rodev because he has all the intentions of a Rodev. I mean, as far as he's concerned, his situation is no different than any classic Rodev. Okay, you have a way of somehow preventing, shooting for the legs, as we call it. I'm just using that as a phrase. So maybe he is a Rodev. But we're not allowed to kill him. Now, the Rambam says that if we could have shot for the legs and we killed him, then the Rambam says you're chayav. But yet the Rambam says ein bezdin memisen also. So on the one hand, it sounds like ein bezdin memisen also because he does still have some status of a rodev. If you're killing a person who's not a rodev, then for sure you be chayav misa again under whatever the conditions that are necessary to me. But here we're saying that ein bezdin memisen also. Apparently, he still has some vestige of the status of a rodev. Otherwise, why, if we killed him when we didn't have to kill him, does the Rambam say ein bezdin memisen also? So we're creating now in the light of the Rambam, a breakthrough, conceptually a breakthrough here. We're saying here's a case of a rodev, but we're not allowed to kill him. But yet he's a rodev. It's like a kosav ashlishi. It's not A and it's not B. It's some hybrid situation in the middle. If he was a rodev, we could kill him. We're not allowed to kill him. No, he's not a rodev. Then if you kill him, you should be chayav misa. No, the Rambam says you're not chayav misa for killing. So the Rambam does allow for the status of a rodev, just that you're not allowed to kill him. Shoot for the legs. But if you killed him, you killed a rodev. If you kill a rodev, you're potter. All right, Rabosai. This is really a doozy of a sugya. Try to figure this out. So let's stop here. And so tomorrow we have that special schedule, and John, I think you'll be around. And I forget, Jeff will come. I think we said for the 9:30 shia, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Okay, then. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Call to.